खत्म हुआ इंतजार। काशी विश्वनाथ कॉरिडोर, करतारपुर कॉरिडोर से भावनाएं भरपूर। बुद्ध सर्किट एवं चार धाम सर्किट भी अब नहीं है दूर। देश हुआ सद्भावना विशेष और सदैव निरपेक्ष। बेटी बचाओ बेटी पढ़ाओ, अब लाओ देश बढ़ाओ। विश्व खेल जगत में भी भारत हुआ कारगर। चोपड़ा, आजमी और सेन से स्वर्णिम गौरव उजागर। आपके निरंतर प्रयास एवं सुशासन प्रणाली से भारत का वर्चस्व बढ़ता जा रहा है। आपको इसके लिए 130 करोड़ लोगों का धन्यवाद और सादर प्रणाम। जो कदम उठे देश में त्रुटियां सुधारने को, वही कदम चले विश्व को उभारने को।
मोदी जी वर्गे पुत्र रोज नी जमदियां मावां। करतारपुर साहिब नूं जिन्ना खुलवाइयां रावां। मोदी जी वर्गे पुत्र रोज नी जमदियां मावां। करतारपुर साहिब नूं जिन्ना खुलवाइयां रावां। प्रकाश पुरब मनवाया बड़े ही चावां नाल। मोदी जी पंजाब दे, पंजाब मोदी दे 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 नाल। किरसानी दा राखा जो मनुखता दा सेवादार। सिखां नूं हक दिवाउंदा ਉੱਚਾ है जिगर दा। किरसानी दा राखा जो मनुखता दा सेवादार। सिखां नूं हक दिवाउंदा ਉੱਚਾ है जिगर दा। विदेशां विच भी रखिया पंजाबियां दा ख्याल। मोदी जी पंजाब दे, पंजाब मोदी दे नाल। 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 सब दा सांझा दिलां दा दुलारा, इक्को नारा देश प्यारा। देश प्यारा, इक्को नारा देश प्यारा। हिंदू सिख नूं जोड़ के रखना एहो है एदा जयकारा। सब दा सांझा दिलां दा दुलारा, इक्को नारा देश प्यारा। हिंदू सिख नूं जोड़ के रखना इक्को है दा जयकारा। हक सच दी आवाज है बनया है मिसाल। मोदी जी पंजाब दे, पंजाब मोदी दे नाल। मोदी जी पंजाब दे, पंजाब मोदी दे नाल। मोदी जी पंजाब दे, पंजाब मोदी दे नाल। मोदी जी पंजाब दे, पंजाब मोदी दे नाल।
Sadbhavana, a mission to spread brotherhood, peace and harmony, is envisioned by our Honorable Prime Minister Shri Narendra Modi ji. Known as a man of ideas and actions, Shri Narendra Modi began the journey of Sadbhavana in his home state Gujarat almost a decade back, demonstrating his ideology of secularism, fraternity and unity in diversity. Drawing inspiration from our Honorable Prime Minister's vision, Vishwa Sadbhavana has been conceptualized to pave a way to a dialogue of brotherhood, civility. धन्यवाद प्रधानमंत्री जी, आपने विश्व में भारत को दिलाया नया सम्मान। आज 130 करोड़ जनसमूह विश्व के दिल में विराजमान। मोदी जी, आपको आपके यशस्वी कार्यकाल की 8वीं वर्षगांठ की बधाई। भारत की इस नई ऊर्जा से विश्व प्रफुल्लित हो रहा है। हर जन प्रिय, हर जन सक्रिय। आपकी उदारवादी प्रगति और सुधारवादी गति ने भारत को अग्रिम देशों में सबसे आगे ला खड़ा किया है। 8 साल समावेश, खुशियों का संदेश। मन की बात को विश्व भर ने सराहाया। इस सामाजिक समावेश को आपने अद्भुत बनाया। उज्ज्वला से स्वच्छ ईंधन, बेहतर जीवन, धुएं भरी रसोई, खिल के मुस्कुराई। जन धन योजना हुई विश्व प्रसिद्ध। हर घर समृद्ध, हर कार्य सिद्ध। अच्छी सेहत का नहीं कोई विकल्प, रोग मुक्त रहे हम, है आयुष्मान भारत का संकल्प। सर्जिकल स्ट्राइक और बालाकोट हमलों से दुश्मन विचलित, आतंकियों के इरादे हुए निलंबित, अनचाही भ्रष्टाचार से मिली विदाई। देश ने अपनी साख बढ़ाई, सैन्य आधुनिकीकरण से बढ़ी देश की शान। पनडुब्बी, युद्धपोत व तेजस और रफाल विमान, अब भारत और भी शक्तिमान। नेशनल युद्ध स्मारक कर रहा हर बलिदान सार्थक, हमेशा याद रहे अमर जवान। आज विश्व में सरपरी है भारत का डिजिटल भुगतान, हर 10 दिनों में पनप रहा यूनिकॉर्न। योग और आयुर्वेद युगों युगांतर से जीवन मणि, बने कोरोना महामारी में संजीवनी। प्रधानमंत्री जी, आप सदैव रहो यशस्वी, देश को दें नई गति। 130 करोड़ लोगों का धन्यवाद और सादर प्रणाम स्वीकार करें। जो कदम उठे देश को नई ऊर्जा देने को, वही कदम चले विश्व के भाग्य को बदलने को। धन्यवाद प्रधानमंत्री जी, आपने 130 करोड़ जन समूह की प्रतिष्ठा बढ़ाई। मोदी जी, आपको स्वर्णिम प्रशासन और सर्वोत्तम सुशासन की 8वीं वर्षगांठ की बधाई। आपकी उदारवादी प्रगति और सुधारवादी गति ने भारत को अग्रिम देशों में सबसे आगे ला खड़ा किया है। 8 साल सुशासन का त्योहार, खुशियों की अमृत बौछार। अनुच्छेद 370 को निरस्त कर JNK को देश से पुनः जोड़ बनाया भारत का अभिन्न अंग। विरोधी तत्व रह गए दंग, लद्दाख हुआ केंद्र शासित, अब है गति निश्चित, प्रगति प्रभावित। आतंकियों को लोहे के चने चबवाए, दुश्मनों के दांत किए खट्टे, सरहद पर बैठे बैरियों के आका बाल ना कर सके बाका। डायरेक्ट बैंक ट्रांसफर से किसान हुआ विभोर, देश चला आत्मनिर्भरता की ओर। हो देश की सुरक्षा या अंतरिक्ष की समीक्षा, मेड इन इंडिया दे रहा है नई दिशा। कोरोना में विश्व के सबसे बड़े टीकाकरण से देश को संभाला, भेज औषध और दुआएं विश्व को आपात संकट से उभारा। देश का कोना कोना हो स्वच्छ, हर घर छत, दरवाजा बंद कर हो शौच और नल से आए साफ जल। देश आपका आभारी है, कल के लिए तैयारी है। बढ़ा देश से खाद्य निर्यात, विश्व को भारतीय किसानों की सौगात।
शिवा वीरण में तब जूझ मरो। देह शिवा पर मोहे शुभ कर मन ते कब न डरो, न डरो अरसो जब जाए लरो, निश्चय कर अपनी जीत करो। देह शिवा पर मोहे शुभ कर मन ते कब न डरो, न डरो अरसो जब जाए लरो, निश्चय कर अपनी जीत करो, निश्चय कर अपनी जीत करो, निश्चय कर अपनी जीत करो। अत वीरण में तब जूझ मरो, अत वीरण में तब जूझ मरो। और सिख हो अपने ही मन को, एह लालच हो गुण को उचरो। जब आपकी याद निधान बने, अत हीरण में तब जूझ मरो। निश्चय कर अपनी जीत करो, निश्चय कर अपनी जीत करो। अत वीरण में तब जूझ मरो, अत वीरण में तब जूझ मरो। सूरा सो पहचानिए जो लड़े दीन के हेत, पुरजा पुरजा कट मरे कबू न छाटे खेत। सूरा सो पहचानिए जो लड़े दीन के हेत, पुरजा पुरजा कट मरे कबू न छाटे खेत। निश्चय कर अपनी जीत करो, निश्चय कर अपनी जीत करो। अत वीरण में तब जूझ मरो, अत वीरण में तब जूझ मरो। जातो प्रेम खिलन का जाओ, सिर धर तली गली मेरी आओ। हित मार्ग पैर धरी जय, सिर दीजे कौन न कीजे। निश्चय कर अपनी जीत करो, निश्चय कर अपनी जीत करो। अत वीरण में तब जूझ मरो।
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Can I please have your attention? Thank you so much. I would like to present a very, very, very warm welcome to the Vishwa Sadbhavana Melbourne chapter. My name is Kamini Sabawal and I am your MC for today with Mr. Bhav Dillanji. I'd like to start by familiarizing everyone with the 3 emergency exits. In case of an emergency, we have 2 emergency exits on the left and 1 on the right. They are marked by green colored symbols, so they are quite easy to find. So on your way up, please do check where they are. I'd also like to start by acknowledging the traditional owners of the land on which we meet today. I pay my respects to the elders past and present. Our dignitaries and guests have arrived, and when they enter the hall, I would kindly request everyone to please stand up and give them a warm welcome.
आजा आजा जिंद शामी आने के तले, आजा जरी वाले नीले आसमाने के तले। जय हो, जय हो। आजा आजा जिंद शामी आने के तले, आजा जरी वाले नीले आसमाने के तले। जय हो, सच्ची मैंने जान गवाई है, नच नच कोयलों पे रात बिताई है। अखियों की नींद मैंने फूकों से उड़ा दी, गिन गिन तारे मैंने उंगली जलाई है। आजा आजा जिंदे शामी आने के तले, आजा सारी वाले नीले आसमान के तले। आसमान के तले आजा
झरी वाले नीले आसमां के तले जय हो शबैगम जय हो कामेदे जय हो हालेदे जय हो बेकुदी जय हो
कुछ करिए नस नस मेरी खोले हाय कुछ करिए बस बस बड़ा बोले अब कुछ करिए ओ कोई तो चल सिद्ध फड़िए तू बेतरिए या मरिए हाय कोई तो चल सिद्ध फड़िए तू बेतरिए या मरिए चक दे में गलियों में राशन की फलियों में बैलों में बीजों में ईदों में बीजों में रेतों के दानों में फिल्मों के गानों में सड़कों के गड्ढों में बातों के अड्डों में रोज भर ले 10-12 बार कर ले रहना न यार पीछे कितना भी कोई खींचे टस है ना मस है जी जिद है तो जिद है जी किसना यूं ही किसना यूं ही बस करिए कोई तो चल जिद फड़िए तू बेतरिए या मरिए हाय कोई तो चल जिद फड़िए तू बेतरिए या मरिए चक दे पतंगों में भिड़ती उमंगों में खेलों के मेलों में पल खाती रेलों में गन्नों के मीठे में खतर में छींटे में ढूंढो तो मिल जाओगे तफ्ताबों गीतों में रंग है समाज दिखरे और खुल के आज बिखरे मन जाए ऐसी होली रग रग मचल के होली टस है ना मस है जी जिद है तो जिद है जी किसना यूं ही किसना यूं ही किसना यूं ही बस करिए कोई तो चल जिद फड़िए तू बेतरिए या मरिए हाय कोई तो चल जिद फड़िए तू बेतरिए या मरिए चक दे
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. A warm welcome once again to the Vishwa Sadbhavana Melbourne chapter. Our dignitaries will be here any minute, so I'd kindly request everyone to take a seat. Everyone at the back, please, could I request you to proceed to your tables and take a seat? Thank you so much.
बातों के अड्डों में भूखा राज भर ले, 10-12 बार कर ले, रहना न यार पीछे, कितना भी कोई खींचे, टस है ना मस है जी, जिद है तो जिद है जी, किसना यूं ही पिसना यूं ही पिसना यूं ही बस खड़ी है।
Sadbhavana, a mission to spread brotherhood, peace and harmony, is envisioned by our Honorable Prime Minister, Shri Narendra Modi ji, known as a man of ideas and actions. Shri Narendra Modi began the journey of Sadbhavana in his home state Gujarat almost a decade back, demonstrating his ideology of secularism, fraternity and unity in diversity. Drawing inspiration from our Honorable Prime Minister's vision, Vishwa Sadbhavana has been conceptualized to pave a way to a dialogue of brotherhood, civility, integration and progress across 6 continents. The first edition of Vishwa Sadbhavana, organized in Chicago, USA saw a congregation of more than 500 eminent personalities from the USA and Indian diaspora, including thought leaders, entrepreneurs, USA lawmakers, corporate leaders, academicians, and spiritual leaders. The glorious occasion was graced by the esteemed presence of Gurudev Shri Shri Ravi Shankar, H.E. Taranjit Singh Sandhu, United States Senator Ron Johnson, among other distinguished dignitaries. Let us hear what our illustrious guest had to say about Honorable Prime Minister Shri Narendra Modi.
In the last 8 years, the drastic changes that has happened in India is something people have been yearning for. I mean, you have to salute our Prime Minister Narendra Modi ji for the bold steps he has taken to bring reforms. And beating off all those laws which were obsolete and giving empowerment to the poorest section of the society. This is something tremendous achievement, you know.
We are launching 2 books on Prime Minister and his inspiring journey for the last 2 decades. And this is a special moment as we celebrate the 2nd edition of our program. For me, it's a nostalgic moment because I've been fortunate to be an active participant of the last 8 years of journey of India and the Prime Minister's leadership. And our relation to India is also, it is special, it needs to be special, it needs to be strong. सारे गुरुमान जो रास्ता में है, उन्होंने कहा कि जब तक आपको बड़ा कोई पहाड़ नहीं है इस धरती पे, और सिर्फ हम कभी भी करने को सकते कि ना आपको कोई इसे समझा गया है तो बनवाने की कोशिश की है.
I just want to thank Prime Minister Modi for the great relationship that he has formed with Americans. All across the country, people see what's happening in India, and we are inspired to make the relationship even stronger. Thank you, Mr. Prime Minister.
Prime Minister Modi, so important to the world right now. I deal with agricultural technology. India is there helping to feed the world. Modi's leadership is coming at a critical time for the world. The number of startup companies that have been launched in India because of his encouragement, because of his policy, those are coming to America, they're coming to Canada, coming all over the world. Prime Minister Modi has the right
Ladies and gentlemen, could I please request that we all stand up and give a standing ovation to our honored guest today evening. Thank you so much. Our honored guest this evening, Shri Meenakshi Lekhi ji, Mr. Julian Hill, MP, Mr. Joseph Hebiel, Councillor, Manpreet Kaur ji, Josh Gilligan ji, Naimkar ji, and Matthew Hilakar ji. Welcome all. Thank you so much. Can we have a round of applause, please? Thank you so much. Good evening, everyone. Ladies and gentlemen, my name is Kamini Sabharwal, and I am your MC for the evening for the Vishwa Sadbhavana Melbourne chapter. We will start this beautiful evening by please standing up and playing the national anthems of the two countries that we are all so attached to, Australia and India. Could I please request everyone to stand up? Thank you very much. Thanks.
Australians, oh, let us rejoice, for we are young and free. We're golden soil and wild. Our home is God by sea. Our land abounds in nature's gifts of beauty, rich and rare. In history's page, let every stage advance Australia. In joyful strains, then let us sing, advance Australia beneath the radiant southern cross, where hearts and hands to make this commonwealth of ours renowned of all the lands. For those who come across the seas, we've boundless things to share. With courage, let us all combine to advance Australia fair. In joyful strains, then let us sing, advance Australia fair. जनगण मन अधिनायक जय हे भारत भाग्य विधाता पंजाब सिंध गुजरात मराठा द्राविड उत्कल बंगा विंध्य हिमाचल यमुना गंगा उच्छल जलधि तरंगा तव शुभ नामे जागे तव शुभ आशीष मागे गाहे तव जय गाथा जनगण मंगलदायक जय हे भारत माता जय हे जय हे जय हे जय 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 हे
Thank you, everyone. We can be seated now. We would like to start this beautiful evening by offering a very, very, very warm welcome to all our guests. Thank you so much for being with us today. And we will begin by honoring our guests by presenting a small token of appreciation from our side to our guests. We'd like to start with our chief guest for today evening, Srimati Meenakshi Lekhi ji. Could I please request Councillor Satnam Sandhu ji and Himani ji to present her with a small token of our appreciation.
शामी आने के तले आजा जरी वाले नीले आसमाने के तले
Round of applause, please. Thank you.
आजा आजा जिंदे शामी आने के तले आजा जरी वाले नीले आसमाने के तले
Srimati Lekhi ji was elected to the 16th Lok Sabha in May 2014 from the Bharatiya Janata Party and was re-elected to the 17th Lok Sabha in May 2019. Srimati Lekhi ji has been a social activist and has been actively associated with institutions and organizations working towards protection of the right of women and children in the country. Thank you, ma'am, for joining us today evening. Next, I'd like to welcome our next guest, Mr. Julian Hemble, MP. Thank you, sir, for joining us today. Thank you for being with us. And I'd request Chancellor Satnam Singh Sadhuji to please present him with a small token of appreciation. A round of applause, please, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you.
आजा आजा जिंदे शामी आने के तले आजा दीवाने नीले आसमाने के तले
A very warm welcome, sir. Next, we would like to honor His Excellency Manpreet Vora ji. And I'd request Chancellor Satnam Sadhuji to please present him with a small token of appreciation from us. Manpreet Vora ji arrived in Canberra on 25th April 2021 to assume his assignment as the High Commissioner of India to Australia. Ambassador Vora joined the Indian Foreign Service in 1988. He was the Ambassador of India to Mexico and High Commissioner to Belize, Ambassador to Afghanistan, and Ambassador to Peru and Bolivia. Prior to this, he served in various capacities at the Indian missions in Hong Kong, China, Mongolia, and United Kingdom. Welcome, sir. I'd now like to hand over the mic to Mr. Bhav Dilanji. Sir.
Thank you. Now we get on to the next phase of today's evening. My name is Bhav Dilan, and I'm going to look after this part. Today, it's my great pleasure to see such a vibrant group of Indians living in Melbourne, the real stars, the real champions of our diaspora in this part of the world. To start with, I would like to acknowledge all the guests on the dais, especially Madam Meenakshi Lekhi, who has come all the way from Delhi, from a busy ministerial schedule. She arrived this morning, and I think this is her fourth or fifth meeting today, so she's been working hard and just hitting the ground running along with our ambassador, Mr. Vora. And she has kindly consented to come here and be part of the Melbourne chapter of Vishwa Sadbhavana, for which we've gathered here today in Melbourne. Just as a background, this was started on the 29th of April in New Delhi, in the house, in the residence of our Honorable Prime Minister, Shri Narendra Modi ji, when 140 non-resident Indians, global champions, were invited to his house. So he opened the doors of his house as a gesture of goodwill, Sadbhavana, and have a better and meaningful relationship with the global diaspora, especially the Sikh community. After that very successful event in New Delhi at Prime Minister's residence, the next chapter was in Chicago, and many of you would have seen the videos and the slides that were playing, and there were about 500 people there along with important people, both of our diaspora and Americans there. Following on, this is the next event which is happening in Melbourne, and would like to thank all of you who have made this event possible. A little background, this event has been curated by the NID Foundation and its chief patron, Chancellor Satnam Sandhu, and founder who are also on the dais today with us, and we will introduce them in detail later on. Now I would request our audio-video team to start a video which would set the context for today's evening. It will tell you what is the background of today's evening, what has happened, and what is the future of India, the leadership of Shri Narendra Modi. Thank you.
Moments of sorrows and tears were scripted in our faith time and again, be it sacrificing our lives for our community or for our beloved nation. From the struggle for independence that called for our service to the infamous massacre that squandered the peace at the Nankana Sahib, or from the never-to-be-forgotten Mocha Guru Ka Bagh to the endless horror and misery caused due to partition 1947. The tragedy that will haunt generations 1984. The agony and pain of the nightmare gone by didn't subsided with the passage of time, for the memories shivered the souls for years to come. At the turn of decade, the year 2014 saw the dawn of a new era, gleaming the nation with a ray of hope.
Narendra Damodar Das Modi.
It is then the whiff of a calming breeze soothed our wounds, bringing relief and pleasure after a long time. Every decision and action from Honorable Prime Minister Narendra Modi was a reflection of his aura of love and affection. We were made to believe that he was sent by our Lord Almighty to show us the path of rejuvenation for the welfare of all community. Affliction caused by heinous massacre of 1984, or the ultimate wish of to bow thy head at the Sri Kartarpur Sahib. The Government of India, under the able leadership of Honorable Prime Minister Shri Narendra Modi ji, has inked many historic ruling in favor of Sikh community. He pacified the tensed relations with our neighboring countries, giving due respect and importance to the feelings of Sikh community. The needful was done to ensure the uninterrupted fulfillment of their duties towards their religion. The Modi government passed an important judgment to give clean slate to blacklisted NRI Sikhs, giving them the opportunity to meet their near and dear ones in India. This ruling that enabled NRI Sikhs to apply and obtain Indian visa and OCI card and having the fortuity to connect with their motherland was appraised by one and all. Thanks to the unbiased and strong governance of Modi government, decades-old FCRA registration controversy associated with Darbar Sahib was resolved. By way of historic ruling in September 2020, Shri Darbar Sahib was accorded the authority of FCRA registration. This landmark step has permitted Sikh communities distanced thousands of miles away to strengthen their religious sentiments attached with Darbar Sahib. Honorable Prime Minister Narendra Modi made it personal objective to preserve the relics of the famous Lakhpat Sahib Gurdwara, including wooden footwear and palki, along with manuscripts and marking scripts of Gurumukhi. This gesture from Prime Minister showed his deep reverence for the faith, as has been reflected in multiple recent endeavors.
लखपत में गुरुद्वारा का भूकंप में नुकसान हुआ था। मैं वहाँ गया देखने के लिए, मुझे बड़ा दर्द हुआ। तो मैं ऐसे ऐसे कारीगरों को लाया राजस्थान वगैरह बाहर से कि वैसा ही मुझे गुरुद्वारा बना के दो जो गुरु नानक देव जी के जहाँ चरण पड़े थे।
The affection of Prime Minister Modi towards Sikh people is clearly evident. He has asked the government to return 325 crore GST that was applied on langars in Gurudwaras, including easing the financial burden on religious places accumulated due to various taxes. Prime Minister Minister has taken many important steps to promote and promulgate the teachings of Sri Guru Nanak Dev Ji that were for the betterment of the humanity. It is his effort that made all possible that the 550th Prakash Parv of Sri Guru Nanak Dev Ji was celebrated at such a grand scale. It is because of the persistent request of him that the holy scriptures of Sikhism are now being published in many different languages. Mata Gujri, Sri Guru Gobind Singh Ji and the bravery and valor of Char Sahibzade are a source of inspiration for the entire humanity. Giving the due respect to the Char Sahibzade and with the objective to pay them tribute for their selfless sacrifice, 26th December has been marked as a day of national importance by the Government of India. The unparalleled example set by Baba Fateh Singh Ji, Baba Zorawar Singh Ji for the betterment of humanity has been brought to limelight and before the entire world with this move. A grand celebration was held on the 400th Prakash Parv of Sri Guru Tegh Bahadur Ji, and addressing the nation on his occasion shows the regard and appreciation Sri Narendra Modi Ji has for the Sikh community, for giving Sikh community the respect that they deserved and to acknowledge the contribution that he had made. We had compiled a book titled Heartfelt Ministry of Faith. This book is an ode to the efforts and work that Honorable Prime Minister Narendra Modi has done for the betterment of the Sikh community. The Goodwill journey that started on 14th April 2022 with the launch of Heartfelt, the Legacy of Faith.
आज बैसाखी भी है और ये हमारे सिख पंथ के सर्जना दिवस के रूप में गुरु गोविंद सिंह जी को भी हम याद करते हैं और उनसे प्रेरणा लेकर के जो समाज के लिए उन्होंने काम किया, जो गुरु नानक साहब और सभी 10 गुरु ने जो काम किया, उन सब के जो टीचिंग्स हैं उससे भी हम प्रेरणा लेते हैं। तो बैसाखी के इस शुभ अवसर पर जहां मैं आप सबको शुभकामनाएं देता हूं, वहीं यह पवित्र कार्य जो आज बुक लॉन्च हुआ है, ये बहुत ही ऐसे दिन पर हुआ, बहुत ही पवित्र दिन है और इसके लिए भी मैं आयोजकों को देता हूं कि उन्होंने इस काम की पहल की है।
और मैं अभिनंदन देती हूं संधू साहब आपको कि आपने आक्रोश में नहीं बल्कि इंसानियत का जामा पहनाकर उस सत्य को इस पुस्तक के माध्यम से भी प्रकाशित करने का साहस दिखाया। आज अगर उन 5 स्तंभों की बात करें, एक विषय उसमें संतोख का है, सेल्फलेस सर्विस का है और हम सब हमेशा इस सोच में रहते हैं कि जब नरेंद्र भाई ने FCRA का रजिस्ट्रेशन दरबार साहब की पुण्य चरणों में अर्पित करवाया तो प्रश्न ये उठा कि वर्षों वर्ष से मांग रही। ऐसा नहीं था कि सिख समुदाय की इस मांग को पहले किसी सरकार ने सुना ना, सुनकर अनदेखा कर देना, वो भी अपने आप में समुदाय के प्रति कितना बड़ा विश्वासघात था। मैं आज अभिभूत हूं कि संधू साहब आपने इस पुस्तक के माध्यम से उस सच को भी संतोख की दृष्टि से उजागर किया।
It's an honor for the NID Foundation, which has laid the stone and foundation for developing the nation to the Vishwa Guru pedestal, which it always belonged. And thank you to the one and only, the Honorable Prime Minister, the real reason for placing communal harmony at top and keeping Sikh and Sikhism at its pedestal high.
Continued with the presentation of the book to Prime Minister Shri Narendra Modi on 29th April.
NID फाउंडेशन के मुख्य संरक्षक एवं चंडीगढ़ यूनिवर्सिटी के चांसलर, मेरे मित्र श्री सतनाम सिंह संधू जी, NID फाउंडेशन के सभी सदस्यगण, हमारे भारतीय डायस्पोरा को तो मैं हमेशा भारत का राष्ट्रदूत मानता रहा हूं।
प्रधानमंत्री जी ने दुनिया भर से जितने भी सिख नुमाइंदा लोग आए थे उनके साथ इतना समय व्यतीत किया, सद्भावना की बात हुई है, देश की प्रगति के लिए बात हुई है और आने वाले समय में देश अमृतकाल में जा रहा है। जैसे प्रधानमंत्री जी ने हमें एक नया विजन दिया है, तो मेरा ख्याल है कि ऐसा इवेंट शायद पहली बार हुआ है और जितना विशाल हृदय हमारे प्रधानमंत्री जी ने दिखाया सिखों के लिए, इससे बड़ी सद्भावना की मिसाल नहीं हो सकती।
कि बड़ी मुद्दत बाद देश में एक ऐसा ਪ੍ਰਾਈਮ ਮਿਨਿਸਟਰ ਨਸੀਬ ਹੋਇਆ ਜਿਸ ਦੀਆਂ ਬਾਹਾਂ ਸਾਰਿਆਂ ਲਈ ਖੁੱਲੀਆਂ ਹਨ ਔਰ ਜੋ ਵਿੱਚ ਹੀ ਆਪਣੇ ਜੀਵਨ ਨੂੰ ਸਮਰਪਿਤ ਕਰ ਰਹੇ ਨੇ।
It talks about seva. It talks about the fact in our Gabani teachings about Naam Japo, Kirat Karo, Divan Chako. And we see ki jere Prime Minister ne, he has had a chance to practice not only believing in the values and the teachings of our Gurujis, but he has had the opportunity to really ensure that he practices that on a day-to-day basis. So to Prime Minister Modi ji, on behalf of all Sikhs from all over the world, we want to say thank you for listening and thank you for ensuring that you continue your seva for so many of the issues that are important to Sikhs all over the world.
I was shocked the amount of contribution जो मोदी साहब ने किया है सिखों के लिए, and it's we very grateful because 1984 एक बहुत sensitive issue है NRI Sikhs के लिए। उसके लिए जब मैंने गूगल किया इतनी वीडियोस उसके ऊपर है from Mr. Modi providing justice after 30 years। ब्लैक लिस्ट को अबॉलिश करना, 314 नाम थे, 312 नाम उसके ऊपर डिलीट करा देने, अलाउइंग देम पीपल टू कम बैक टू इंडिया, बहुत बड़ी अचीवमेंट है सिखों के लिए। करतारपुर कॉरिडोर खोलना, all in his tenure, this is so great, it's an honor to be here।
The Vishwa Sadbhavana, organized in Chicago, USA, brought together more than 500 eminent personalities from US and India, including entrepreneurs, members of US Senate, corporate leaders, educationists, and spiritual leaders.
In the past 8 years, the drastic changes that has happened in India is something people have been dreaming for. I mean, you have to salute our Pradhan Mantri, our Prime Minister, Honorable Narendra Modi ji, for the bold steps he has taken to bring reforms and peeling off all those laws which were obsolete and giving empowerment to the poorest section of the society. This is something tremendous achievement,
For me, it's a nostalgic because I've been fortunate to be an active participant of the last 8 years of journey of India under Prime Minister's leadership.
Today, as we gather here at the second Vishwa Sadbhavana in Melbourne, we are delighted to welcome our distinguished guests and present before you all a copy of this book which holds great significance for the Sikh community. Welcome on this journey of goodwill.
नरेंद्र दामोदर दास मोदी ईश्वर की शपथ लेता हूं कि मैं विधि द्वारा स्थापित भारत के संविधान के प्रति सच्ची श्रद्धा और निष्ठा रखूंगा।
Leader, statesman, visionary. In a journey spanning 20 years, Shri Narendra Modi has played many roles. As a 3-time Chief Minister of Gujarat, he led the state's transformation from relative underdevelopment to one of India's most prosperous and fastest growing states.
मैं मॉडर्नाइजेशन का पक्षकार हूं, लेकिन मॉडर्नाइजेशन without westernization.
As a 2-term Prime Minister, he continues to unshackle India with far-reaching socio-economic reforms that has empowered 1.3 billion Indians in more ways than ever before. As a statesman, he's amongst a select few world leaders to simultaneously win the respect of nations that oppose each other. Modi at 20, dreams meet delivery, brings together intellectuals, policymakers, industry leaders, and experts across varied fields to chronicle the shaping of new India that is both in tune with its civilizational moorings as well as modern in outlook and achievements. Modi at 20 offers a holistic view of 2 decades of Narendra Modi. On 7th October 2021, Shri Modi completed 20 continuous years as head of democratically elected governments, 12 and a half years as Chief Minister of Gujarat, and 7.5 years and counting as the Prime Minister of India. The phenomenon becomes unique when seen in the light that before 2001, Shri Modi had never held any elected office. Since then, he's remained undefeated in 5 consecutive elections: 2002, 2007 and 2012 as Chief Ministerial candidate in Gujarat, 2014 and 2019 as Prime Ministerial candidate. Popularity has only grown with time. Let us listen from the authors of the various chapters themselves as they take us through the unique insights that they offer in their respective chapters.
Narendra Modi's unstinting support to entrepreneurs, to the startup world, to people who build the nation through enterprise has been unstinting over his entire journey. And I've had the privilege of being associated with him through this entire period of 20 years.
Modi ji has repeatedly emphasized that our nation must transition from women's development to women-led development.
In my article, I have written that what a modular approach meant to him, how one project led to another project, then to the third project, and ultimately the final message was well-being of the masses. For him, it is nation which matters. He always thought that he lives for the nation.
I have given a true incident. 20 years back, I met mother and a child. A mother was a cook, a child was going to school. And I met them and I talked to them. The lady, the mother, told me that she wants her daughter should become a receptionist. And that is her aim in life. Now, the girl has become an entrepreneur. I asked her why it happened, how it happened, and what is the reason. She said, I have changed in 20 years. Government is extremely supportive in all their schemes. And she went on telling that how her parents have a bank account. A great leader can inspire people. He can bring a wind of change in many directions. And that is what has happened in our country.
Gujarat's agriculture achieved a tremendous rate of growth of 9.2% per annum. This is unheard of in the Indian history of agriculture. I would say this is the first time in the history of thousands of years of India. India has exported 20 million tons of rice in 21-22 in a global market of about 50 million tons.
PM Modi says that India's attitude towards meeting its goals has changed from chalta hai to which has struck a chord with me. This is the same attitude that a young person brings to whatever he or she approaches. It is the same attitude that PM Modi has shown in governance too.
I've looked deeply at the environmental and ecological leadership provided by Mr. Modi, including on issues related to climate change. Mr. Modi has shown that development and sustainability can coexist.
Our culture has been, in a sense, under attack for a long time. And my chapter explores what Prime Minister Modi has done consistently, and even earlier what he did in his role as a Chief Minister. Prime Minister Modi has focused not just on Kashi Vishwanath Ji temple, but one explores various other temple towns that have been revived. It's not just the worship places of Hinduism, but the worship places of all other religions that exist in India.
Something unique about the Prime Minister is his ability to carry out schemes on scale. So we mentioned Aadhaar, then there was Jan Dhan, Swachh Bharat. Now we are seeing another very, very big initiative underway, which is the Se Jal.
I asked a bystander why he supported Modi ji. A young boy confidently said, क्योंकि सपने दिखाना सिखाया है हमें मोदी जी ने, हमारे प्राइम मिनिस्टर जी ने. People trust Modi ji because he delivers. It is his success that strengthened public trust in his leadership.
This book is not only a must-read for those interested in political science and governance, it's also a masterclass in communication, in personal development, and in management studies.
In last 7 years, he has
tremendous change, tremendous excitement, not only for India, but also for Indian American community. And I would really try to say that worldwide community, worldwide Indian diaspora.
I worked in different parts of the world. I know how the health system works. No country in the world could have vaccinated 150 crore in such a short period of time. It's simply not possible, but we have done it. So essentially, India has managed to prove that we can do amazing things. We have a leader like Mr. Modi.
It is his appreciation of the possibilities of technology which has enabled digital India, now entering what is called as the tech decade or techade. Just as we used technology to build Aadhaar, the Jam Trinity, many more things are happening. India is a digital leader in financial transactions done digitally. And this again is thanks to the big push Minister Modi gave UPI in the years after 2016.
Deeply nationalistic, someone who's almost driven by his desire to take India to a higher level. And the same nationalistic figure is actually very international, with an enormous curiosity about the world. So this nationalist, internationalist paradox that he represents is one part of it. The other, of course, is a leader who's very steeped in our history and culture, who still realizes the promise of technology, who has a great belief in the power of science, who again uses one to reinforce the attractiveness and the strength of the other. There's a very strong orthodoxy about foreign policy. And I find it very fascinating about Prime Minister Modi that the ability, the determination, and in some ways the vision to challenge that orthodoxy. I mean, begin how he actually at the first swearing, idea of getting all our neighboring leaders to India was itself was a departure from traditional diplomacy as we know it. So in that sense, in the domain of foreign policy, it certainly was a breath of fresh air.
Here is a man who dared to dream big, because India is a country of a size of 1.4 billion people that needs leaders who can imagine big initiatives and can implement them on a scale. I'm really delighted that I was tasked with the responsibility of writing a chapter on thinking big and executing in scale.
How do you deliver female empowerment is through sanitation, and the whole toilet program, providing toilets for every house was a major campaign.
As economists, we generally keep our focus on a few macro indicators. But if you look at the real economy of India, bringing down open defecation or giving access to over 100 million toilets within the first 4 or 5 years of governance, I think has been one of the biggest achievements of.
I tried to decode how and why Modi is winning elections continuously for 20 years with 3 assembly and 2 with full majority. In fact, he never sat on opposition benches. My election study suggests winning elections means winning the heart of the people, and it cannot be fake. Let's try to understand the Modi magic, the art and the science behind.
नहीं कह सकता हूं कि जो लोग भारत के सर्वांगीण और सर्वसमावेश विकास में विश्वास करते हैं, जो लोग एक संपूर्ण व्यक्तित्व किस तरह से निर्मित हो इसके रास्ते पर विश्वास करते हैं, इस विशेषकर समाज सेवा और राजनीति के क्षेत्र में काम करने वाले लोगों के लिए ये पुस्तक एक गीता बनकर आने वाले दिनों में उभरने वाला है। मैंने मोदी जी के साथ सालों से काम किया है, बेरोक-टोक किसी झिझक के बगैर कह सकता हूं, हर सोच में देश की सोच सबसे ऊपर और सबसे ज्यादा होगी। और इसीलिए आज 130 करोड़ की आबादी के मन में विश्वास है, जब देश की शताब्दी मनाई जाएगी हम एक महान भारत को देख पाएंगे। ये जो आत्मविश्वास 130 करोड़ में प्रत्यारोपित करने का काम नरेंद्र मोदी कर पाए हैं, क्योंकि उनके खुद के अंदर अनन्य राष्ट्रभक्ति से कूट कूट कर ईश्वर ने उनको बनाया है। मित्रों, और प्रामाणिकता, पारदर्शिता, इसके बारे में मोदी जी के विरोधी भी उन पर कोई आरोप नहीं कर सकते।
Delivery, because at the end of the day, delivery is more important. Delivery to the people. And this book aptly describes the various initiatives, thoughts, his vision, and its implementation and success of those dreams. By Chief Minister and Prime Minister converted developmental initiatives into such a mass movement. Remember, when we were launching this Swachh Bharat Abhiyan, Prime Minister told me, I was Minister at the time, Urban Development, he told me, इसको एक सरकार का कार्यक्रम का रूप नहीं देना, इसको एक राजनीतिक कार्यक्रम का रूप में नहीं देना। मेरा मन में आश्चर्य हो रही, राजनीतिक नहीं, सरकार नहीं तो और क्या है? उन्होंने कहा इसको एक जन आंदोलन का रूप देना चाहिए, जन आंदोलन, जन भागीदारी।
With prosperity and safety, with opportunity and support, with one and all for development. 20 years in public office have been nothing less than an epoch-making tenure. With each passing day, his commitment to uplift the people of India across caste, creed, sect and religion only strengthens and continues to be the beacon that guides 1.3 billion Indians to greater heights. Modi at 20, Dreams Meet Delivery, is an important chronicle of our times. It is now available in all retail outlets and all online platforms. This book is now yours to ignite debates and discussions. Happy reading.
Thank you for watching this in a roughly 12-minute video. Though there is no way Modi ji's 20 years can ever be captured in a 12-minute video, but NID Foundation has taken the risk of doing that, and I think they've done justice to that. Today we are here. One of the most important things is that we are going to launch these two books which you saw here. But before that, I would like to really reflect slightly on the first video, in which it is aptly described and displayed Modi ji's true love for the Sikh community. So his love for the Sikh community, I have seen that firsthand, is real, it's warm, it's true, and above all, I think his love for the Sikh community is divine, and that is showcased in what he has done since 2014 for the Sikh community, and these are facts. So I would like to request you to focus on all the things Modi ji has delivered for the Sikh community, in particular in these past years, and that has also been nicely put together in the book we are going to launch, and every one of you is requested to take one of them books home along with you. This event, before we come to the formal launching of the book, I have something important to share with you, which is of interest to you. I'm going to talk about a couple of people who have been very instrumental in today's event, and I can say that ये वो लोग हैं जिन्होंने अपनी जन्म भूमि और कर्म भूमि दोनों के साथ बहुत अच्छा प्यार करा है और इन्होंने हमें हेल्प करा है ये सारा इवेंट पुट टुगेदर करने के लिए. सो आई वुड रिक्वेस्ट यू टू पुट योर हैंड टुगेदर फॉर रुपिंदर बरार एंड सरबजोत ढिल्लों, who have both worked really hard and above all they are surviving us. हमारा भी सबका पिछले 2 दिनों से ध्यान रख रहे हैं, तो इनने काफ़ी मुश्किलें और तकलीफ़ें हमने शायद दी हों, लेकिन इन्होंने बहुत अच्छा काम करा है और आप सबको हमारे और मैडम मिनिस्टर के सन्मुख करके ये बहुत अच्छा इवेंट आज पिरोया है, सजाया है हमारे ऑनरेबल प्राइम मिनिस्टर की बुक्स के बारे में. सो आज ये 2 बुक्स हैं, एक है द हार्टफेल्ट लेगेसी ऑफ फेथ और दूसरी है मोदी एट 20, which encapsulates 20 years of Modi's great unmatched governance, which is 13 years as the Chief Minister of Gujarat and 7 years as the Prime Minister. So now I would request all the dignitaries on the stage to stand up and formally launch these 2 books. And I would request all the still photographers to please come here, as this is a historic moment on the land of Melbourne, Victoria here. Can I request the dignitaries to hold both the books straight like this, one by one? Okay, let's first do the heartfelt legacy. Okay, madam says we'll take your suggestion. Thank you. So let's do both the books together. और हमारे साउंड वालों का धन्यवाद, उन्होंने मेरे को हर घर तिरंगा याद कर दिया है. तो हमारी भारत सरकार की ओर से ये भी एक कैंपेन चल रही है कि 15 अगस्त जो हमारा आज़ादी का अमृत महोत्सव है, वी आर सेलिब्रेटिंग 75 years of Indian independence, और उसमें हम सबको आपको निमंत्रित करते हैं टू बी पार्ट ऑफ दैट एंड डिस्प्ले द ट्राइकलर ऑन टॉप ऑफ योर houses as part of Har Ghar Tiranga campaign. Moving on. Thank you. Yes, it's something to be applauded. 75 years of Indian independence. Yes, let's give a big round of applause for that. Tiranga, Har Ghar Tiranga, Har Ghar Tiranga, Har Ghar Tiranga. So let's talk a little bit about this book which has been, published by NID Foundation. मैं आपको थोड़ा सा NID Foundation के बारे में बताना चाहता हूँ. It is an Indian think tank which is helping supporting the government on existing policies and future policies. और उसके चीफ पैटर्न हैं चांसलर सतनाम संधू एंड फाउंडर हैं मैडम हिमानी सूद, एंड बोथ आर ऑन द डायस. Chancellor Sandhu is he is the main driving force behind Chandigarh University, which is one of the largest private universities in India, and I think the only private university which has made the top 30 universities in India. I hope I have the stats correct. So वहाँ ये about 22,000 students को education का जो अनमोल गिफ्ट है वो प्रदान करते हैं और हमारे देश के यूथ को अपस्किल करते हैं और देश को तरक्की के रास्ते पे जाने का इनका बहुत बड़ा योगदान है. So next I am going to invite Chancellor Satnam Sandhu to say a few words. As I earlier said, he is the chief patron of NID Foundation. He is the founder, chancellor of Chandigarh University. He is the founder of Chandigarh Welfare Trust. ये इतनी चीज़ें करते हैं कि मैं याद नहीं रख सकता, इसलिए मेरे को पढ़ के बताना पड़ेगा. His contribution to the field of education, employability, sports, agriculture, research and development, art, culture, humanities, and women's rights have earned him a special place in the hearts of people who work directly within his institutional establishments, and the hundreds of thousands of people whose lives he has single-handedly impacted in the past 30 years of his remarkable journey. और मैं अपने प्रधानमंत्री से कुछ सीखूंगा और उनको कॉपी करूंगा, जैसे उन्होंने बोला था कि हम मेरे मित्र श्री चांसलर सतनाम संधू, आपने भी वीडियो में देखा होगा. So I also take this liberty to copy our honorable Prime Minister and say, मेरे मित्र Chancellor Sandhu, kindly come and say a few words to this awesome audience of Melbourne. Thank you.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Namaskar. ਵਾਹਿਗੁਰੂ ਜੀ ਕਾ ਖਾਲਸਾ, ਵਾਹਿਗੁਰੂ ਜੀ ਕੀ ਫਤਿਹ. ਜੇ ਫਤਿਹ ਦਾ ਜਵਾਬ ਦੇ ਦੋ ਤਾਂ ਪਤਾ ਚੱਲ ਜਾਊਗਾ ਕਿ ਦਸਤਾਰਾਂ ਤੋਂ ਬਿਨਾਂ ਵੀ ਕਿੰਨੇ ਇੱਥੇ ਪੰਜਾਬੀ ਬੈਠੇ ਆ. ਵਾਹਿਗੁਰੂ ਜੀ ਕਾ ਖਾਲਸਾ, ਵਾਹਿਗੁਰੂ ਜੀ. ਮੈਨੂੰ ਅੰਦਾਜ਼ਾ ਹੋ ਗਿਆ ਮੈਂ ਫਾਰਮਲ ਸਪੀਚ ਤੋਂ ਬਾਅਦ ਆਪਣੇ ਦਿਲ ਦੀ ਗੱਲ ਹਿੰਦੀ ਔਰ ਪੰਜਾਬੀ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਤੁਹਾਡੇ ਨਾਲ ਕਰ ਸਕਦਾ. Friends, today I welcome all the dignitaries who are present for the evening of Vishwa Sadbhavana event being organized by NID Foundation. I would like to take this opportunity to extend my heartfelt gratitude to Mrs. Meenakshi Lekhi ji, Honorable Minister of State and External Affairs and Culture, Government of India. Further, I would extend my gratitude to other respected members and dignitaries on the stage, vice chancellors of Australian universities and academicians who are present here for the occasion. I also welcome and thank my NRE friends who have joined us for the Vishwa Sadbhavana event here today in Melbourne to spread the Indian philosophy of Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam. We have gathered here for the second edition of Vishwa Sadbhavana event here today in Melbourne. We have gathered here. Sadbhavana means goodwill, which lies at the heart of our Indian culture. For us, Vishwa Sadbhavana is a mission to spread brotherhood, peace, harmony, and is based upon Honorable Prime Minister Shri Narendra Modi ji's vision and Indian philosophy of Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam. Today, we will launch two books titled Heartfelt: The Legacy of Faith and Modi @20 Dreams Meet Delivery. Over the years, India and Australia have shared a warm and cordial relationship which has grown stronger under the capable leadership of Shri Narendra Modi ji. In fact, Shri Narendra Modi ji was among the first few global leaders who met the Honorable Prime Minister of Australia, Mr. Anthony Albanese, a day after he was sworn in as Prime Minister in the month of May this year. Both the leaders met on the sidelines of Quad Summit in Tokyo. They held fruitful discussions to further strengthen our strong bilateral ties. Since assuming office in 2014, Shri Narendra Modi ji has energized our country's foreign policy. He has turned India into a strategic player with a highly effective foreign policy. Under him, India is today witnessing an era of progress and transformation. The book titled Modi @20 Dreams Meet Delivery captures the incredible journey of Shri Narendra Modi and how he became a global leader with his model of good governance and pro-people approach. He has completed 20 continuous glorious years as the head of a government, including over 13 years as the Chief Minister of the state of Gujarat. Shri Narendra Modi ji follows the ideology of secularism and believes in the unity in diversity. He has always given prime importance to the welfare and upliftment of minority communities in India. The love, affection and respect of Shri Narendra Modi ji for the Sikh community is showcased in the book Heartfelt: The Legacy of Faith. This book, brought by the NID Foundation, talks about the 5 virtues of Sikh philosophy as it takes the readers on the journey of how Shri Narendra Modi ji has taken path-breaking initiative for the welfare of the global Sikh community. Our Indian diaspora present here is our extended family. They are closely connected to our Indian culture and traditions. So I would now like to say a few words in my native language. दोस्तों, एक फॉर्मल स्पीच सी ਜਿਹੜੀ ਮੈਂ ਸ਼ੇਅਰ ਕੀਤੀ ਸਾਡੇ ਫੋਰਨ ਫਰੈਂਡਸ ਕਰਕੇ। ਹੁਣ ਕੁਝ ਦਿਲ ਦੀਆਂ ਗੱਲਾਂ ਮੈਂ ਤੁਹਾਡੇ ਨਾਲ हिंदी और पंजाबी ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਕਰਨੀ ਚਾਹਾਂਗਾ। थैंक यू भवदीप ढिल्लों जी, आपने मुझे इंट्रोड्यूस कराया एज ए चांसलर ऑफ चंडीगढ़ यूनिवर्सिटी। 22,000 स्टूडेंट्स वो एक बार में एडमिशन लेते हैं। टोटल स्टूडेंट्स हमारे पास 65,000 हैं। तो थैंक यू वेरी मच। और ये इतना इम्पोर्टेंट नहीं है, इम्पोर्टेंट है कि जिस इंसान को भवदीप जी इतना अच्छे अच्छे एडजेक्टिव लगा के इंट्रोड्यूस कर रहे थे, वो पंजाब के सबसे बैकवर्ड गांव से, अब तो बैकवर्ड नहीं रहा, जब मेरा बर्थ हुआ डिस्ट्रिक्ट फिरोजपुर में, वहाँ से निकला जहाँ पे स्कूल नहीं था, इसके घर में कोई एजुकेटेड एक फैमिली मेंबर नहीं था पढ़ा लिखा। और मेरी वाइफ भी जहाँ बैठे हैं, इन्होंने मुझे बहुत बार मना किया कि आप मत बोला करो अपने बैकग्राउंड के बारे में। लेकिन मुझे याद है, मैं कभी भूल नहीं सकता कि मेरी बीबी, जो मेरी, हम अपनी माँ को बीबी बोलते हैं, हमारे घर में खेती करते थे। 2 थैले आते थे हमारे घर में, बैग फॉर फर्टिलाइजर, 1 फॉर यूरिया जिसमें वाइट थैला चिट्टा बोरा वेख्या होना आपा, दूसरा जूड़ा बोरा DAP फर्टिलाइजर, और एक का बस्ता बना के मेरी माँ ने मुझे दिया था धोखे और दूसरा बचाने के लिए। यही मेरी जर्नी थी। और आज चंडीगढ़ यूनिवर्सिटी में प्रदीप जी इंट्रोड्यूस करा रहे थे, लेकिन और साथियों ने, प्रोफेसर हिमानी सूद भी बैठे यहाँ पे, ये फाउंडर हैं NID फाउंडेशन के, 15 साल से हम इकट्ठे काम कर रहे हैं। हम मिशन पे निकले हैं क्योंकि हमें सब कुछ जो मिला है वो भारत की सरजमीन से मिला है, भारत की सोसाइटी से मिला है। और हम पे बैक करने के लिए, हमारी यूनिवर्सिटी का नाम भी चंडीगढ़ यूनिवर्सिटी, हमारी फाउंडेशन का नाम भी NID मीन्स न्यू इंडिया डेवलपमेंट फाउंडेशन। हम उस कारवां का हिस्सा बनने की कोशिश कर रहे हैं जो 2014 में हमारे आदरणीय प्रधानमंत्री श्री नरेंद्र मोदी जी ने जब शपथ ली थी तब से स्टार्ट हुआ है। हमारी बहुत निमानी सी कोशिश है, छोटी सी कोशिश है, लेकिन हम अपनी यूनिवर्सिटी और अपनी फाउंडेशन में 200 रिसर्चर हैं जो काम कर रहे हैं। हम पॉलिटिशियन नहीं हैं, हमारे पास मैम बैठे हैं, ये हमारे पास पॉलिटिशियन हैं, लेकिन हम तो प्रोफेशनल हैं, एजुकेशनिस्ट हैं, और हमारा काम है रिसर्च करना, तथ्य ढूंढना और सच को लोगों के सामने लेके आना। और उसके लिए हमने जब रिसर्च स्टार्ट की, इंडिया 75 ईयर्स अपने अमृत महोत्सव मना रहा आज़ादी का, हम उस पर रिसर्च कर रहे थे और हमने देखा कि जब से 2014 में श्री नरेंद्र मोदी जी ने कमांड संभाली है हमारे देश की, उसके बाद एक अलग तरह का माहौल देश में बना है। आज आप भी फख्र से अपने देश के बारे में बात करते हो। एक समय था जब हर रोज करप्शन, स्कैंडल और परिवारवाद, सबसे बुरी बीमारी हमारे देश की परिवारवाद, कि ये खानदान है। मैं किसी का नाम नहीं लेना चाहूँगा क्योंकि मैं पॉलिटिक्स में नहीं हूँ, मैम ले सकते हैं। खानदान पे खानदान चलते थे, और मोदी जी आए तो उन्होंने इसका पता ही साफ कर दिया। अपनी पार्टी में भी, बाहर भी, किसी का बच्चा होने के कारण कोई पॉलिटिक्स में नहीं आ सकता, आएगा अपने बलबूते पे। हम जैसे लोग जो घर से बोरे का थैला निकले थे, आज प्रधानमंत्री जी की नज़र में हैं, सिर्फ इस कारण कि उनकी कदर करते हैं जो देश को बनाने में लगे हैं, उनकी आंख में वो खनकते हैं जो देश को तोड़ने में लगे। और विश्व सद्भावना का हमारा मकसद भी यही है, क्योंकि ये बुक जब हमने रिसर्च की कि 75 ईयर्स में भारत ने क्या खोया और क्या पाया, तो हम हैरान हो गए कि क्या क्या हुआ है। और हमने एनालाइज क्या किया कि 75 ईयर्स में 75 स्पीचेस, 75 प्रधानमंत्री की स्पीचेस हुई लाल किला से। आज़ादी का दिवस मनाते हैं 1947 से लेके, और हर स्पीच में प्रधानमंत्री अपनी प्राप्तियां और अपने जो काम किए हैं, अपना विजन वहाँ पे बोलते हैं। हमने जब वो एनालाइज किया, मैम हमारे पास रिसर्च है 75 ईयर्स की, तो हमने देखा कि कितनी बार झूठ बोला गया, कितनी बार एक ही बात रिपीट की गई। और जब से नरेंद्र मोदी जी आए हैं तब से क्या हुआ। और उसके आगे जाके जब हमने रिसर्च किया कि सिखों के लिए, माइनॉरिटीज़ के लिए, हम पूरी माइनॉरिटीज़ पे रिसर्च कर रहे थे। अभी हमारी बुक, सेकंड बुक आनी है जो माइनॉरिटीज़ के लिए मोदी जी ने काम किए। और जब हमने देखा कि सिखों के बारे में बड़ा ऐसा भ्रम पैदा करने की कोशिश की जा रही है कि देश में, भारत में सिखों के साथ इंसाफ नहीं हुआ। एक दौर था, उसमें सच्चाई है कि कितने सालों से, अभी टेक्स्ट वीडियोस में आपने बहुत डिटेल में देख लिया, उसमें नहीं जाना चाहूँगा क्या दर्द मिला है सिखों को। लेकिन जब से मोदी जी आए उसके बाद क्या हुआ, जब हमने रिसर्च की, यकीन मानिएगा हमारे रिसर्चर की आंखों में आंसू थे कि जो काम मोदी जी के दौर में सिखों के लिए हुए हैं वो महाराजा रणजीत सिंह के जाने के बाद कभी नहीं हुए, कभी नहीं ऐसा इंसाफ मिला। और जब हमें, और ये सारी बातें अब वीडियो में भी देखी हैं, बाहर बुक्स पढ़ी हैं, फैक्चुअल है, एक भी चीज वहां पे कोई नरेटिव बिल्ड करने की कोशिश नहीं की गई है। जो भी फैक्ट्स थे वो हमने प्रेजेंट किए हैं और बुक में हमने पब्लिश किए हैं। आप भी जरूर पढ़िएगा, आपकी फीडबैक भी हमें चाहिए। और हमने सोचा कि माइनॉरिटी की बुक से पहले सिर्फ सिखों के लिए जो मोदी जी ने काम किए हैं वो हम पब्लिश करेंगे। और जब बुक हमने पब्लिश की तो एक पीछे पंजाब में काफ़ी किसान आंदोलन चला, बहुत सारी चीज़ें पंजाब में ऐसी हुई, कुछ नरेटिव ऐसा बना। उस माहौल में जब बुक हम लेके गए तो हमने कहा कि जितने भी सिख समुदाय के लीडर हैं, हमारे जत्थेदार हैं, आपने देखा होगा कि तख्त श्री पटना साहब के जत्थेदार जी बोल के गए कि हमारे प्रधानमंत्री कैसे हैं। और हमारे रणप्रीत जी बैठे हैं, रिशपाल धालीवाल जी मेरे भाई बैठे हैं। हमने सभी में जाके हमारे सिख आगुओं से बात की, लीडरों से मिले। हमने जब फैक्ट्स बताए तो उन्होंने कहा कि हम आपके साथ जाएंगे मोदी जी का थैंक्स करने के लिए। और पूरे डायस्पोरा से 140 प्रोमिनेंट सिख पर्सनैलिटीज़ हमारे साथ वो बुक प्रेजेंट करने के साथ मोदी जी का धन्यवाद करने के लिए जब उनके घर पे गए, और आप हैरान हो जाओगे, जो लोग हमारे साथ गए थे, भाग गए थे हमारे साथ, टोटली उनका नजरिया बदल गया। 140 लोगों के लिए 2.5 घंटे प्रधानमंत्री जी हमारे साथ रहे। और साथ ही नहीं रहे, कुछ हमारे निहंग सिंह हैं, तरना दल के निहंग सिंह हैं, बाकी निहंग सिंह हैं। उनकी कंडीशन थी कि हमारे पास बड़ी बड़ी तलवारें हैं, हम तो तलवार के बिना नहीं जा सकते। प्रधानमंत्री निवास पे सभी जत्थेदारों को लॉ किया गया, निहंग सिंहों को लॉ किया गया कि जितनी मर्जी कृपान लेके आ जाओ, तलवार लेके आ जाओ, प्रधानमंत्री जी विदाउट सिक्योरिटी आएंगे। और ऐसा ही हुआ। 2.5 घंटे इंडियन प्राइम मिनिस्टर सिख समुदाय के सभी जो प्रोमिनेंट लोग हैं उनके साथ, जिनके पास बड़ी तलवारें भी थी, 2.5 घंटे हमारे साथ रहे, बड़े प्यार से रहे और बहुत अपने हाथों से सेवा की उन्होंने सिखों की। ये आप आइए हमारे पास। उनका इतना दिल खुला हुआ है सभी के लिए, लेकिन सिखों के लिए खासकर। अगर हमारी पॉपुलेशन देखें इंडिया में 2% से भी कम होगी, 1.7 पॉइंट है, 1.7 है, और हमें जो इज्जत मिलती है उस देश में, मुझे तो कहा, अगर मेरी पहचान वहाँ पीएमओ में है तो मेरी सिर्फ इस दस्तार के कारण, क्योंकि मैं दस्तार बांधता हूँ। मुझे वो प्यार मिलता है कि मैं एक लोअर मिडिल क्लास फैमिली से, गाँव से उठ के मैंने देश के लिए कुछ करने का बीड़ा उठाया। तो ये विश्व सद्भावना का इवेंट करने का पूरी दुनिया में, हम शिकागो गए थे, यूएस में हुआ, आपने देखा वीडियो में। अभी हमारे पास बहुत लंबी लिस्ट है, हम इंग्लैंड में करने जा रहे हैं, जहाँ जहाँ प्रोमिनेंट सिख बैठे हैं। आज आप आए हैं हमारे पास, आपका भी बहुत बहुत थैंक्स करना चाहूँगा। और स्पेशली सरबजोत ढिल्लों जी और बराड़ साहब, रुपिंदर सिंह जी, मेरे को कोई शब्द नहीं जिन्हें थोड़ा धन्यवाद करना, तुसी कमाल कर देती इन्ना दिलों। और इन्ने मीनाक्षी मैम, जितने लोगों से आपके आने से पहले हम मिले, एक एक पर्सनैलिटी अपने आप में बेमिसाल, और उन्होंने ऑस्ट्रेलिया की डेवलपमेंट के लिए, हमारी सोसाइटी का नाम ऊंचा करने के लिए कमाल किया। अभी मैं वोरा साहब ने मिलकर भी मज़ा आ गया। थोड़े एम्बेसडर भी बड़े कमाल दे। मैंने वोरा साहब से पूछा, मैं कहा जी वोरा साहब, घर घर तिरंगा, और हम हर घर तिरंगा में इंडिया में, हमारी भी एक्चुअली क्या होता है कि जब किसी को फॉलो करते हो ना, आपका आइडियल क्या है, कौन है, तो आप भी उन जैसे काम करना शुरू कर देते हो। तो अब हमारी भी कैपेसिटी बन गई, हम कुछ करें तो अलग ही करें। हर घर तिरंगा का इवेंट आ रहा है इस आज़ादी दिवस पे, तो हमने फैसला कर लिया कि हम वर्ल्ड रिकॉर्ड बनाएंगे। गिनीज रिकॉर्ड हमने बुक करवा दिया है, अभी अनाउंस नहीं करेंगे क्या करेंगे, मैम मना कर रहे हैं, और हम बनाएंगे, हमारी भी जेदें बनाएंगे। लेकिन मैंने वोरा साहब से पूछा कि ऑस्ट्रेलिया में हर घर तिरंगा पे क्या हो रहा है, ऑस्ट्रेलिया का भी लगाएं, उसमें कोई दिक्कत नहीं है। थैंक यू सो मच, थैंक यू सो मच। तो सर ने कहा कि डिजिटल तो बहुत कर रहे हैं। वोरा साहब, मेरी रिक्वेस्ट है, मैम आपसे भी है, आपके पास कल्चरल डिपार्टमेंट भी है, हर घर तिरंगा आप ही कर रहे हो, आपको मालूम होगा कि कल्चरल डिपार्टमेंट भी मैम हेड कर रहे हैं, और हर घर तिरंगा का पूरा मिशन ये ड्राइव कर रहे हैं। तो मेरी रिक्वेस्ट है जी, एक ना जी बड़ा कंटेनर तिरंगे का भर के ऑस्ट्रेलिया में जरूर भेजें, और ऑस्ट्रेलिया के फ्लैग के साथ अब हर घर तिरंगा भी विश्व सद्भावना के सोचे, हर घर तिरंगा विश्व हर घर तिरंगा बन जाए। तो वोरा साहब, मेरी रिक्वेस्ट है, मैम हमारी बात मान लेंगे, हमें बहुत प्राउड है, ये पंजाबी है, दिल से पंजाबी है, बहुत दिल से पंजाबी है, और हर काम ठोक के करते हैं, कभी डरते नहीं किसी से। तो मैं ज़्यादा विस्तार में नहीं जाऊंगा। 2 बुक्स हैं, मोदी @20 और सिख सद्भावना में जो बुक्स है, हमने आपके उसके बारे आपसे शेयर किया। ये बुक्स आप जरूर लेके जाइएगा, पढ़िएगा, हमें फीडबैक भी दीजिएगा, ताकि हम और अच्छा काम कर पाएँ और फैक्ट्स जो हैं वो दुनिया के सामने लेके आ पाएँ। इसमें कोई शक नहीं है कि आने वाले चुनाव में अनडाउटली मोदी जी फिर देश की कमांड संभालने वाले हैं, और आने वाले 25 साल जो हैं भारत के लिए स्पेशली ये बहुत इंपॉर्टेंट है। अमृतकाल का नाम दिया मोदी जी ने उन्हें। हम तो चाहते हैं कि मोदी जी ही 25 साल हमें लीड करें, ताकि देश इतना बदल रहा है, इतनी स्पीड में बदला है। सरदार जी तुसी भी बजा दो तालियां यार, टका के मारो ना। थैंक यू सो मच। तो उसमें इंडियन डायस्पोरा का भी अपना एक रोल है, जिसको मोदी जी बोलते हैं जी हमारे राष्ट्रदूत हैं, सबसे ज्यादा इज्जत वो करते हैं इंडियन डायस्पोरा की। तो आपका भी सहयोग मिले। इन्हीं शब्दों के साथ दिल की गहराइयों से आप सभी का धन्यवाद, बहुत बहुत धन्यवाद, सभी ऑर्गेनाइजर का धन्यवाद। और मैम मीनाक्षी लेखी जी, कोई शब्द नहीं है कि आपने बहुत शॉर्ट नोटिस पे हमें समय दिया और यहाँ पे पधारे। दिल की गहराई से एक बार बहुत बहुत धन्यवाद। थैंक यू वेरी मच। जय हिंद।
थैंक यू सो मच सतनाम साधु जी। मुझे बहुत ही अच्छा लग रहा था आपके इतने हम्बल वर्ड्स सुन के, और आपने एक पैट्रियोटिज्म की जो फीलिंग सब में जगाई है। थैंक यू सो मच, वी रियली अप्रिशिएट इट। थैंक यू। I would now like to talk a little bit about our guest of honor, Mr. Julian Hill. Welcome. Mr. Julian Hill is an Australian politician who is currently serving as a member of parliament and has joined as a representative of the Australian government today evening. So a big round of applause for him, please. He has championed multiculturalism and spoken about the importance of embracing diversity So we would love to hear his thoughts and welcome him on the dais.
Thank you for those kind words of introduction, and thank you for inviting me to be here and share a few words as a member of the new Government of Australia. First, can I, as is now our custom in Australia, acknowledge the traditional owners of the land on which we meet, the Wurundjeri and the Wathaurong people of the Kulin Nation. Just to explain that custom to our honourable guest here, as we look out across the room and celebrate modern multicultural Australia, more than 200 years since European settlement, our country is also on a journey to remember that we are the world's oldest continuous civilisation, the Aboriginal people, who've been in this land for 50,000 years or more. And we're about to embark on a journey to recognise our First Peoples in the constitution of this country. But can I first also acknowledge and welcome tonight's chief guest, the Honourable Meenakshi Lekhi, the Minister of State for External Affairs and Minister of Culture, but particularly also to acknowledge your work before you were elected to the Lok Sabha, fighting for the rights of women and children and all the legal work that you've done. It's great to have you here with us. Can I pass on apologies from the Honourable Tim Watts, the Assistant Minister for Foreign Affairs. He had wished to be here tonight as your counterpart. I spoke to him in the car on the way here, or actually I talked to him, and he spoke like this. He was very sick, so apologies, but he didn't want to infect us all. And also to His Excellency Manpreet Vora, India's High Commissioner to Australia. Good to have you down here in Melbourne. All the other honoured guests, community leaders, and you would have noticed, for those in Australia, we just have a federal election. We also have a Victorian state election coming up. So if I can also acknowledge three of our Labor candidates who are here. Matt Pilakari, stand up. Nildara Gadani and Manny Kaur. And of course, councillors Naeem Kurt, Joseph Hawali and Josh Gilligan, also representing local government, and my friend and community leader Jasvinder Sidhu. The two books that have been launched tonight are significant, and I won't go over the detail that we've all heard, but they both highlight and celebrate Narendra Modi ji, but also India, its people, culture and achievements, as the world's largest multi-faith, multicultural democracy. I was actually in the state of Gujarat in early 2014. I was in Ahmedabad, just as the election was about to take hold, and you could feel the energy. And it was a lot bigger than Australian elections that we've just been through. But who would have thought back then, as I was wandering around watching the energy and the signs going up, what a significant and transformative figure Modi would become, not just for India, but indeed the whole world, and his contribution to international diplomacy. It's also significant that we're launching these books in the 75th year of Indian independence, and I acknowledge that on behalf of the Australian government and congratulate modern India on what you've achieved in those 75 years. But as a member of the government, I'd like to also reaffirm the value of our strong ties, including the contribution of Australia's vibrant Indian diaspora community. It is impossible to imagine modern multicultural Australia without the contribution of the Indian community. Give yourselves a clap. We have almost 700,000 people now living in Australia, which is a big number by Australian standards, not a big number by Indian standards, but 700,000 people who were born in India living here in Australia, and probably 1 million now or more if we count those of Indian heritage whose parents or grandparents were born in India. And as the community grows here in Australia, it builds positive impressions and connections around the country. In the last 2 years, a difficult time for the world and also Australia, as our state and much of the country experienced devastating bushfires and also the tragedy of COVID, the border closures and the economic difficulties. The Sikh community in particular, through the Sikh volunteers, led the way and gained national acclaim for their work in bringing meals to those who needed it, travelling to the bushfire zones, and also, of course, the gurdwaras and the temples, opening their doors to feed those who had nothing, and have really built the reputation of the Indian diaspora here in Australia. And I thank you for the community leaders who've been part of that work here in the room tonight. The final thing that I want to say, and Modi's international vision has been part of that, as well as I think the Australian government's international outlook. For many years, I think the relationship between Australia and India was too often reduced to the stereotype of Commonwealth curry and cricket. And all of those things are very important. In more recent decade, we've seen the rise of cinema, sharing that culture. I was at yoga this morning. I've taken up yoga the last couple of years. I first got into yoga some years ago when I visited India. I practiced my headstand this morning. I'm perfecting that, slowly getting there. But I think more important than those cultural links is actually the increasing economic bonds and complementarity and the strategic outlook that we share as vibrant democracies in the world. And I think those bonds, as we heard the new Prime Minister on his second day in office, met with Narendra Modi in Japan talking about these strategic challenges and what we have in common. And so I think that context, those shared challenges, those shared opportunities bode well for our future relationship. The Albanese government is also establishing a Centre for Australia and India Relations, a national platform to drive our business, institutional, cultural and community connections, promoting policy dialogue and improving India literacy in Australian businesses and engaging the diaspora. And so as we look forward to the relations between our two countries, it will be the people in this room above all else that have the greatest capacity to drive our relations forward and seek closer bonds in the economic, research and all other aspects. So I welcome you. I thank you for honouring us with your presence here in Melbourne. I'm glad you started your journey in Australia here in Melbourne, started in the best place, and you'll be in Sydney tomorrow. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Julian Hill, for sharing your reflections on the holistic context of the Indian diaspora in Australia, reflecting of the Australian-Indian relationship, and most importantly, I do second it, Melbourne is the best city to live in Australia. Next up, we'd like to invite His Excellency, Mr. Manpreet Vora, on the stage. He is India's High Commissioner to Australia. I'd just like to say a few words about him, please. Ambassador Vora arrived in Canberra on the 25th of April 2021 to assume his assignment as the High Commissioner of India in Australia. He's the Ambassador of India to Mexico, High Commissioner, and the Ambassador to Afghanistan, Peru and Bolivia in the past. So lots of laurels. And yes, sir. I'm handing the mic over to you now.
Namaste, Sat Sri Akal, good day. Your Excellency, Minister Lekhi, the Honourable Julian Hill, MP, councillors, friends, colleagues, ladies and gentlemen. I thank the NID Foundation and the local organisers for arranging this important, I would say perhaps historic event. This is Minister Lekhi's first visit to Australia in her capacity as the Minister of State for External Affairs and the Minister of State for Culture. And this is her first public event. So may I, on behalf of all of you, welcome Minister Lekhi to Australia, to the beautiful state of Victoria, and to the magnificent city of Melbourne. Ma'am, you see before you here today a microcosm of the beautiful, vibrant Indian diaspora here in Australia. It's a diaspora that has grown from strength to strength, and these people-to-people links that have now been created between India and Australia form the bedrock, really, for powering of our bilateral relations. I take immense pride that this community has charted some very impressive stories, success stories here in Australia. And it has to be said, Satnam Sandhu Sahab, somewhat like his history, I dare say that many members of the Indian diaspora here also started fairly modestly, but have achieved great success and great heights. people come here to Australia, have come here to Australia from many parts of India. They belong to various religious, linguistic, and cultural denominations, but they've all assimilated extremely well in Australia, imbibing Australian values and at the same time preserving their own rich cultural heritage and traditions. The contributions, ma'am, made by the Indian-Australian community to Australia's economy and society are warmly acknowledged by one and all, and we just heard some good words of praise from the Honourable Julian Hill. All of this has really contributed greatly to the relationship today, and we are, as everyone knows, vital partners, comprehensive strategic partners, India and Australia today. The meaning of Sadbhavana, as most of you know, is kindness, empathy, tolerance, good neighborliness, selfless service. That is also the creed of the Sikh faith in particular. When we say Naam Japo, Kirt Karo, Vandke Chakko, that is really Sadbhavana. And when you gel all of that also with our ancient Indian philosophy and belief in the concept of Vasudev Kutumbakam, or the world is one family, it's really beautiful how this is all coming together here. And it's absolutely in great measure thanks to the contributions of the Sikh community in particular, who we are gathered here today to meet in greater numbers and to launch this wonderful book. Therefore, ma'am, often say that I might be your High Commissioner to Australia, but each and every one of you here, the Indian diaspora here, is an ambassador for India. So thank you very much for all that you do to make my job easier here in Australia. Can I just end by wishing you all in advance a very, very happy 75th Independence Day. Thank you. It is also 75 years of India-Australia diplomatic relations. So this is truly, truly special for all of us who live and who straddle both India and Australia. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ambassador, for all the kind words for both India and its diaspora. Next, now we have the chief guest of the evening. So I would request your kind attention. Now, Minister Lekhi, our chief guest, who has come, as I earlier said, who's come all the way from New Delhi, specially to be with all of you. And she has just landed today morning. Minister Lekhi is the Minister of State for External Affairs and Minister of State for Culture at the Government of India, and was elected to the 16th Lok Sabha in May 2014 from the Bharatiya Janata Party, and was re-elected to the 17th Lok Sabha in May 2019. Madam Lekhi has been a social activist and has been actively associated with institutions and organizations working towards protection of the rights of women and children in this country. And this was what was given to me in writing, but I have a few other things about her which I would like to say, that she's a tireless leader and she's a champion of nationalism, and she's also the voice of the voiceless and a very, very accomplished lawyer of the Supreme Court, and a very soft and sweet, speaking Punjabi, as again I would copy Mr. Chancellor on that she is Dil Se Punjabi. Let's all put our hands together and welcome Minister Lekhi to the dais.
the outset, I want to thank Satnamji, my friend Himani Sood, our High Commissioner here, and I think I must thank in that serial our MP here, Mr. Julian Hill, for stepping in for Mr. Watts, and Murgesh ji, Manpreet ji, Sarabjit Singh Dhillon ji, Rupinder Singh ji. सारियां तो पहले तो रुपिंदर थे, मनप्रीत जी दा धन्यवाद, सरबजीत सिंह जी दा धन्यवाद, all my friends, excellencies, members of local government of Victoria, ladies and gentlemen, I really don't know where to start from. And the reason is all the sequence which was shown in the film, I'm someone who lived through all that. And when they said that many professionals joined in, many people just came in, and they worked like volunteers. They were not politicians. I am one of them who became a politician subsequently, but joined as a volunteer. And volunteer because whether it's Satnamji or it's Miss Himani Sood or Sarabjit ji or Rupinder ji, we just felt India needed a change. We were so upset with the things around us, and we believed we are the inheritors of great legacy that India is. And because India is so great, it cannot be ruined by some false steps. And because it cannot be ruined by false steps, someone had to get up, utho, jago, kuch karo. And that statement, which of course Vivekananda ji used, was a motivational force. And I remember two incidents I'll quote today. And one incident was, there was one Guruji who was from down south. He visited Delhi. And I was asked by many people, go meet him, go meet him. And I'm like, sorry, I mean, I am very spiritual, but not ritualistic. So I have my own ways of life, and my connection with God is a little different. So I said, I'm sorry, I just can't go. I was told, no, you must meet him. He's a former director of IIT Madras. So I said, yeah, that sounds exciting. So someone who's been a scientist and a director of IIT Madras, obviously in the material world he has achieved a lot through his knowledge, and then he's chosen the path of spirituality worth a meet. So I excused myself from a couple of things, and I said I must go and meet him. I went and met him. And he said, why do you look so disturbed? So I said, you are the Swami, you tell me. So he said, don't get perturbed. You need to find your energy. You have so much of energy in you. You have to channelize it right. I say, yeah, but channelize how? Who am I? So he said, no, do you see the change happening in the country? I say, yeah, I do. He said, you understand the language of science? I say, yeah, I do. So he said, for any force, any state of inertia, you need equal or more force to change that position. So if country is in a state of inertia, the way it is, you need to pitch in higher force to change that state of inertia. And what about people like you? Are you willing to do your bit? I say, yes, of course, I'm willing to do my bit. He said, leave everything. Get on the right bandwagon. And that moment changed me. He says, stop asking questions, be the answer yourself, and bring that change, because I see a lot of goodness in you. But I said, but that goodness doesn't take me anywhere. I may be good sitting in my house, doing my stuff, doing the right things, but is that goodness good enough? Unless we step up, step out, and learn to live for others and do things for others. I was one such volunteer who joined the bandwagon, which was represented by none less than Prime Minister Modi. And we thought he is the man who can change the country. He is the man who will bring the right change. So that was experience which I thought I must share today. The second experience, because we are talking of Sadbhavana. Sadbhavana amongst who? Sadbhavana between who? Here is part of my family sitting here. And we are a Punjabi Khatri family. But our buas are married into Sikh family. My dadi was a Sikh. My father and grandfather was a Mona. Now you want to separate the families? You want to see Sikhs versus Hindus, Hindus versus Sikhs? How did the Sikh come into existence in the first place? Who are Sikhs? And in Punjabi I say, Hindu Mawa ne put jam ke peje se Guru de kol. The mothers were all Hindus who gave their sons away. Look at the heart. Which mother will give the son away? And for what? To save which religion? To save which society? The kind of atrocities, the kind of exploitation India has seen over the centuries. So this was a force to secure justice, full of justice society, a just society. And for that just society, the Sikh kaum was created. Nyayalay. And today, I mean, when I was introduced Punjabi Dilo, मैं क्या Dilo नहीं, DNA तो. I'm a Punjabi through my DNA. My Punjabi DNA will speak out whenever there's an opportunity. And it is this Sadbhavana which needs to be brought in. I think it is this thought which people need to understand. And when I hear this Shabad, Aisiba devar mohe, Shubh karmante kabu na daru na taru, nischay kar apni jeet karu. You know, when I hear this line, which I heard while entering, the thought in my head was, isn't this what Modi is all about? He's not scared. Scared of doing wrong, yes, but not scared of doing the right things. He will look into the eye and do the right thing. He will talk straight, point blank. And Shiv ki puja, and you say Sikh and Hindus are separate. And it is this thought, you know, we have a post within BJP which is called Sangathan Mahamantri, which is like the General Secretary handling all the tough decisions. In his journey, he was once the General Secretary handling Punjab. And he was the General Secretary handling Himachal. He was the General Secretary handling Haryana. And he has seen the interiors of these three states. Every village, every district, every single house, probably in those areas, he would have visited. And that gives him the insight into the society. And when his journey is counted 20 years of Modi, I say, no. His journey started much before. As a young volunteer, roaming the streets, living like a sadhu, sant, whatever you can call it. And then he learned about human nature. He learned about the human problems. He got that insight. And only because of that insight, he is able to bring the change. He is able to bring the change because he feels from the heart and he knows this is what goes on. And it is in that context, I would say, I'll purposely speak in Hindi here. 75 साल लगते हैं किसी को जानने के लिए कि शौचालय चाहिए होता है. Does it take 75 years? Something is happening right in front of your eyes. आंखों के आगे हो रहा है, आपको दिख नहीं रहा. आपको प्रधानमंत्री चाहिए वो बताने के लिए 20 करोड़ मतलब कोई मजाक होता है यार। पर ये भी बताते हैं कि कितने लोग इससे बेखबर थे, कितने लोगों ने सोचा ही नहीं ये काम भी करना है। आंखें नहीं चुभती थी, औरतें नहीं दिखती थी, बच्चे नहीं दिखते थे, सड़क पे बैठे हुए लोग नहीं दिखते थे। और मुझे मालूम है, मैं जब पहली बार चुन के आई 2014 में, तो मैंने अपनी कॉन्स्टिट्यूएंसी को, क्योंकि मेरे को ऐसा लगता है कि कोई काम छोटा नहीं, अगर घर की सफाई भी करो, घर के बाहर की भी सफाई करो, तो आपका कंट्रीब्यूशन है। तो मैंने अपनी कॉन्स्टिट्यूएंसी मैप की। आर.के. पुरम सरकारी कॉलोनी, सब सिविल सर्वेंट्स रहते हैं, ठीक सिविल सर्वेंट्स जो कि मनप्रीत वोरा के पार्टनर होंगे, IAS ऑफिसर्स, फॉरेन सर्विस ऑफिसर्स, ठीक उनके घर के सामने एक स्लम कैंप है, और वहीं सड़क के ऊपर सुबह 4:30 बजे, 5 बजे, 6 बजे जब फ्लाइट लेनी होती थी, उसी सड़क से आप जाते हो और आपको दिखता है। और ऐसे कर करके पूरा एरिया मैप करके स्वच्छ भारत अभियान शुरू होने से पहले उस पर काम किया। और मुझे तकलीफ यही होती है कि इस काम के लिए 70 साल नहीं लगने चाहिए थे, ये पहले हो जाना चाहिए था। एक दूसरा डाटा मैं आपको देती हूँ, and that is about, we are a country of 130 million people. You know, before 2014, how many bank accounts we had? Guess. 12 point some odd crores. And which also meant people like us, probably in one family you'll have 4 accounts, 5 accounts. Such a large population which was outside financial inclusion, which could not access formal economy. And formal economy could not access their resource, because banks need public money to run their business. Now all the money which is run by people who probably are not in a certain bracket, but nevertheless contribute to your GDP, work for the country, were left outside the formal economy in 4 months. Please remember this. In a period of 4 months, we opened 38 crore bank accounts. And the naysayers had their own description. Bank account for what? People have no money to put in. These people will not be able to use. What do you need a bank account for? But that is the model which has brought the biggest financial inclusion in the world. Because it is not just about putting money in the bank account, it is also about government money being given through the bank account. So you stop corruption. You make government answerable. You reach out to the people unreached. You include people in the mainstream of national life and nation building. And these people, so-called poor people, put in a lot of money in the bank accounts. So banks became richer than before because they got all that money which was lying outside the mainstream of economy. It worked both ways. It was a two-way traffic. Now, until and unless, and you have had economist prime ministers in the past, and because today I'm a politician, I don't shy away from taking names. Satnam ji. So you've had economists, finance ministers, you've had economist prime ministers, but nobody had the brains to say we need bank accounts for people, and banks have to reach out to people. And when stories that Satnam ji told about himself, that rising in life from humble backgrounds is something to be proud of. I think Narendra Modi, being the Prime Minister, made it fashionable to tell those stories. Otherwise, most people would not tell those stories. And people like me, and I'm sure most of you, come from similar kind of backgrounds. Most of us came from Pakistan. Most of us, families would have, at least, I'm the third generation. I assume most of you will be third or fourth generation. And those families which were rich families, holding on to huge land, lot of money, lot of assets, gold, silver, whatever, running businesses, left everything and came without anything just to secure your life. But the third or the fourth generation has reached wherever. So we've all had humble backgrounds. Let's be clear on that. We've all had humble backgrounds, because I will just share one incident. On 14th August, it is also Vibhishika Day. It is the day on which our country saw partition. It is a day which saw the highest number of people being killed from across the border. It is a day on which genocide happened. Again, unrecognized. Nobody speaks about genocide. Nobody talks about what kind of history we've gone through. You know, my dadi used to say one line, and I, as a child, I oft repeat it. I never used to understand. I used to get very irritated as a small little kid. She would, after 3 months, 6 months, 8 months, 1 month, she will get up in the middle of the night and do, like we say, siapa. And she will say, and every time, standard lines. Pakistan te mere liye baniya si, मैं जूती भी नहीं पाई सी, बच्चियां नू कुछ छड़ पा के नट गए. These were the lines she would usually say. And as a small kid, I would get irritated. You know, like 2:30 a.m., Dadi's getting up, creating ruckus in the house every now and then. And every time you ask, she has the same lines to say. And today, when I read, when I know about this, I realize what kind of emotional trauma she would have gone through. To be not able to get over it for so many years. The deep pain in her psyche, and I'm sure most of our families will have similar stories to tell. Did anyone think that even Vibhishika Day, the day of genocide, also that history needs to be told? Prime Minister Modi did. I saw the pictures of Guru Sahib's Sahibjadas. We all celebrate Children's Day. But did anyone think the kind of sacrifice our families had to undergo? Veer Bal Divas manana chahiye. Every child should know the story that 25th of December, this is what happened. And Sirhind, we all read, but I went to that place. I went to Sirhind, I went to that Gurdwara. Nobody revamped it. It was through Culture Ministry, under the direct orders from the Prime Minister, that revamping happened. Everyone's heard about Bhagat Singh, Subhash Chandra Bose, but I will connect it to Bhagat Singh, Sukhdev, Rajguru. How many of you know that the place of cremation, where is that place? You know, for every Indian, I feel there can be no place more pious than this place. Because 3 young men not only died, but their bodies were dismembered by the then imperialist forces, and kerosene was put to do away with their bodily remains. And the villagers collected, they snatched those bodily remains and cremated it. And that place is Hussainiwala, where many battles have been fought. And that Hussainiwala was lying in abject disarray. Prime Minister Modi got Culture Ministry, my ministry, to revamp the whole place. We did it. I don't think people in Punjab even know that it is central government which has done this. Sarhand. Nobody knows all this circuit of Gurudwaras, the heritage circuit, Anandpur Sahib, Tinda, the other one, Talwandi Sapun, the one in Firozpur, where these Sikhs, Saragadi. All these circuit was done by this government. And direct orders, which nobody even talks about. You know why I'm saying this? When today in the address, Satnamji mentioned about Ranjit Singh Ji. Maharaja Ranjit Singh brought so much of honor to each one of us. He even brought the doors of Somnath. So the heritage of Ranjit Singh is one heritage which puts both Hindus and Sikhs together. Ahilya Bai Holkar. And when I was thinking this afternoon and this morning, these were the thoughts which were going in my head. I say, you know, of course, Maharaja Ranjit Singh did immense work in establishing the rule of law. Ahilya Bai Holkar did immense work as a woman to bring the rule of law. And post that, if I look around, I see Mr. Modi doing that hell of a lot. Because it's not about religious symbols. It's about respecting people's faith. And I said this morning also. And my thought is that if you want to destroy any civilization, any people, any society, you need to take away their memories, their sense of pride, their sense of existence. And the moment you do that, that community is over, finished. India, for once, has been a continuous civilization for thousands and thousands of years. And the sense of pride, as very beautifully, succinctly put by Satnamji, and I'm repeating that, we don't have to hide who we are. We have to take pride in who we are. And that narrative setting has been done by Mr. Modi. That be proud of your culture, at the same time, don't become arrogant, remain connected with the globe, learn the technology, do the right things, and be kind, compassionate. Only when you are on the right track can you do the right things. Only when you are yourself self-reliant can you help anybody else. And there goes the story what India has done recently during Corona, during all the kinds of problems which world is seeing. We've been able to achieve all that because you get that confidence that I can do it. ऐसा कुछ नहीं जो तुम पा नहीं सकते, कुछ नहीं जो तुम कर नहीं सकते. तो उठो और काम करो और achieve करो, achieve your goals. That is the message. And be on the right side of the history. Always be on the right side of the history. And if you look at his life story, that's the message for everyone. It's such an inspirational story. So I would want everyone to read the book or small essays. It's a compilation of small essays. And even when it comes to the legacy of faith, heartfulness, will also indicate, I'll take a little while more because that reminds me of another story. And that story is 1984. Why I need to tell this story? Because stories need to be told. If you don't tell, they remain within you and they build you up differently. 84 story needs to be told because that was also a time when I had just entered college. I passed my class 12th and I entered university in 84. And I come from Delhi, which saw the brunt of everything. And I was stuck at a bus stop for a very long time, from morning till evening, because I could not get into a bus. And that was a time without cell phones, very little money students used to have. And at that point in time, all this was happening around us. And there was a teacher. And that teacher was a Gandhian. He used to weave his own cloth. He used to use charkha. And he used to get all of us to do the right thing. And he said, Beta, we had no money to give away for charity and things. So every day we will all get newspapers to the school. Now imagine if 50% of the college also gets newspapers to the school, college. How many newspapers will you collect? And that collection of raddi, as we call it, the leftover newspapers, that would go into recycling and that will be sold, and the money collected will be spent on buying sewing machines and bicycles. And all the impacted families, we will go around as children with the professor to give away those to the needy families. And it is that lesson which stayed with me for a very long time. What is right, what is wrong, kind of politics. And I've seen it with my own eyes as a young kid, the impressionable age that you go through. So 84 was something which I have seen, the pain I felt at that time. And families we grew up in, which were all mixed families. And we saw how families can get destroyed, how life can be disarray, how people for their politics can change things. But the best part, that post-84, the government, which was a full majority government, post-87 till 2014, there was never a full majority government in the country. And the first majority government after a gap of 30 years was brought in by Narendra Modi. Which only goes to prove that while emotions, legacy of families, all kinds of things could change the politics, but here is a man who could bring Sadbhavana and the good deeds to the fore and yet come to power to bring that change. With these words, thank you very much. Jai Hind. One nara, because I feel it will be incomplete if I don't make everyone say Bharat Mata Ki Jai. Bharat Mata Ki. बहुत कम आवाज है यार, सबको नींद आ रही है, भूख लग रही है. जोर से हाथ ऊपर करके. भारत माता की, भारत माता की, भारत माता की. जय हिंद.
Thank you so much, Miss Lekhi. That was absolutely inspiring. You've given us down a trip to the memory lane. It has brought back so many memories for us. But more importantly, also spoken about some of the amazing achievements that the country has witnessed in the recent years. Can I please request everybody to sit down, everyone at the back? Could I please request you to take your seats, please? Thank you so much. Now, I'd like to welcome on stage Professor Himani Sood, who's the founder of the NID Foundation and Senior Vice President of Chandigarh University. Her dynamic leadership and resolve for positive change have been the primary driving forces behind the formidable legacy of Chandigarh University and rapidly evolving NID Foundation. Her exceptional ability to connect with people at all levels and pragmatic approach to resolving issues of critical nature are her strengths that we admire her for. And I'd like to welcome her on stage, Professor Himani.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. It is so difficult to speak after Meenakshi ma'am. I wish ma'am I knew how to tell stories. I just don't know stories. And it's so difficult again to be the last speaker and come in between food, drinks, and Sikhs and Punjabis. I'm doing a crime. But nevertheless, I've been given this duty, so I will just speak barely for 2 minutes. Thank you all. Thank you, Meenakshi ma'am. You'll always be an idol for a women like me and will keep inspiring all of us. A heartfelt thank you for joining us today on this auspicious day of the launch of 2 books, Heartfelt, The Legacy of Faith, Modi at the Rate 20, where delivery meets dreams, in Melbourne. For NID Foundation, it's a great honor and a proud moment to have traveled some 6,300 miles away from home and be with all of you. Believe you me, I'm still jet-lagged. Just cutting it short, under the aegis of Honorable Prime Minister Modi ji, the last 8 years for India have been shining, glorious. It is his vision, selfless dedication, and deepest sentiments which have led the country and the whole world to believe that India definitely has magic. From the land of snake charmers to the land which controls the mouse of the world. Article 370, world's largest COVID vaccination drive, Ayushman Bharat, Pradhan Mantri Jan Dhan Yojana, Dev Shakti, Muslim Women Protection Act of Marriage, opening of Kartarpur Corridor, slashing the blacklist of Central Adverse List, waiving of GST on langar items are some of the things that he has done in these 8 years of governance. He, in true sense, is a true leader, respected and admired worldwide. I would like to quote our Honorable Prime Minister that a country of 130 crore individuals cannot afford to dream small. So let's think big, and I keep reiterating that. Sare jahan se acha, Hindustan hamara is not a dream, but a reality under the aegis of Prime Minister Narendra Modi. Jai Hind and good night.
Thank you, Himani ji. Just now our event is coming to the end, and now we are standing between you and the food. So just give us another 2-3 minutes and we'll bring the formal part to an end. Just one very important announcement. On that room on the right hand side, we have got arrangements to record your video messages or your feelings and reflections about today's event, and that would be collated and presented to the Honorable Prime Minister. So I would request all of those who would like to go and give their bites or their reflections. So that's a very important thing. Last but not the least, the 2 people, can I have your attention please? Just a couple of minutes more, and now we are going to bring to you the 2 people from Melbourne who are behind this event, who would come together and give the vote of thanks, which would then finally bring this event to an end. I would like to request Sarabjot Tillon and Rupinder Brar to come on the stage and say the formal vote of thanks.
ਹਾਂਜੀ, ਸਭ ਤੋਂ ਪਹਿਲਾਂ ਸਾਰਿਆਂ ਦਾ ਬਹੁਤ ਬਹੁਤ ਧੰਨਵਾਦ ਜਿਹੜੇ ਸਾਡੇ ਥੋੜੇ ਜਿਹੇ ਨੋਟਿਸ ਤੇ ਇੱਥੇ ਆਏ ਆ। Honorable Meenakshi Lekhi ji, thank you very much for coming in a short notice. And our High Commissioner to Australia, Manpreet Bora ji, thank you very much. ਹੁਣ ਗੱਲ ਕਰੀਏ ਆਪਾਂ NID ਫਾਊਂਡੇਸ਼ਨ ਦੀ। ਸਤਨਾਮ ਸੰਧੂ ਸਾਹਿਬ, ਹਿਮਾਨੀ ਜੀ, ਧਾਲੀਵਾਲ ਸਾਹਿਬ ਸਾਡੇ ਬੈਠੇ ਹੈ। ਇਹਨਾਂ ਦੇ ਕਰਕੇ ਇੱਕ ਬ੍ਰਿਜ ਬਣ ਗਿਆ ਜਿਹੜਾ ਕਿ ਬਹੁਤ ਇੰਪੋਰਟੈਂਟ ਹੋ ਗਿਆ। ਪਹਿਲਾਂ ਸ਼ਾਇਦ ਬ੍ਰਿਜ ਇੰਨਾ ਜ਼ਿਆਦਾ ਹੈ ਨਹੀਂ ਸੀ ਕਿ ਹੁਣ ਅਸੀਂ ਜਿਹੜੇ ਸਿੱਖ ਹੈ ਆਪਣਾ ਮਸਲੇ ਹੈ ਜਾਂ ਕੋਈ ਮੁੱਦੇ ਹੈ ਉਹ ਇਹਨਾਂ ਥਰੂ ਇਹ ਪ੍ਰਾਈਮ ਮਿਨਿਸਟਰ ਤੱਕ ਪਹੁੰਚ ਸਕਦੇ ਹੈ। ਪਹਿਲਾਂ ਆਪਣੇ ਜਿਹੜੇ ਮੁੱਦੇ ਸੀ ਉਹ ਸ਼ਾਇਦ ਪੋਲੀਟੀਕਲੀ ਜਾਂ ਕਿਸੇ ਹੋਰ ਤਰੀਕੇ ਨਾਲ ਰਹਿ ਜਾਂਦੇ ਸੀ, ਪਰ ਇਹਨਾਂ ਜਿਵੇਂ ਅੱਜ ਕਹਿ ਕੇ ਪੋਲੀਟਿਕਸ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਘੱਟ ਨੇ, ਇਹ ਵੈਸੇ ਜ਼ਿਆਦਾ ਕਮਿਊਨਿਟੀ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਕੰਮ ਕਰਦੇ ਨੇ ਤੇ ਅਸੀਂ ਇਹਨਾਂ ਦਾ ਬਹੁਤ ਬਹੁਤ ਧੰਨਵਾਦ ਕਰਦੇ ਹਾਂ ਕਿ ਸਾਡੇ ਲਈ ਹੁਣ ਬ੍ਰਿਜ ਬਣ ਸਕਦੇ ਨੇ ਤੇ ਬ੍ਰਿਜ ਬਣੇ ਹੋਏ ਨੇ ਕਿ ਜਿਹਨਾਂ ਪਹਿਲਾਂ ਕੰਮ ਕੀਤਾ ਆਪਾਂ ਹੋਰ ਵੀ ਕੰਮ ਇਹਦੇ ਕਰਨ ਦੀ ਬਹੁਤ ਲੋੜ ਹੈ। ਹਜੇ ਬਹੁਤ ਕੰਮ ਹੋਇਆ ਜਿਵੇਂ ਕਿ ਆਪਾਂ ਦੇਖਿਆ ਤੇ ਅਸੀਂ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਦਾ ਬਹੁਤ ਬਹੁਤ ਧੰਨਵਾਦ ਕਰਦੇ ਹਾਂ ਆਨਰੇਬਲ ਪ੍ਰਾਈਮ ਮਿਨਿਸਟਰ ਦਾ, ਮੋਦੀ ਜੀ ਦਾ। ਪਰ ਅਸੀਂ ਚਾਹੁੰਦੇ ਹਾਂ ਕਿ ਅੱਗੇ ਵੀ ਬਹੁਤ ਸਾਡੇ ਸਿੱਖਾਂ ਦੇ ਮਸਲੇ ਆ ਜਿਹੜੇ ਹੱਲ ਹੋਣੇ ਚਾਹੀਦੇ, ਸਾਡੇ ਜਿਹੜੇ ਬਾਹਰ ਬੈਠੇ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਦੇ ਬਹੁਤ ਮਸਲੇ ਜਿਹੜੇ ਹੱਲ ਹੋਣੇ ਚਾਹੀਦੇ, ਤਾਂ ਤੁਸੀਂ ਬ੍ਰਿਜ ਦਾ ਕੰਮ ਕਰ ਰਹੇ ਹੋ। ਥੈਂਕ ਯੂ ਵੈਰੀ ਮੱਚ। ज़्यादा टाइम नहीं मैं लेंदा होया तो मैं सारे ही जिन्ने मेरे दोस्त आए हैं, जिन्ने साढ़े गेस्ट आए हैं, उन्हों का बहुत बहुत थैंक यू वेरी मच। तो आप जान तो पहले फतेह की सांझ सांझी करांगे तो जकारा छड्डना है। वाहिगुरू जी का खालसा, वाहिगुरू जी की फतेह। बोले सो निहाल। थैंक यू, थैंक यू।
Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, warm welcome to everyone. मैं ਸਾਰਿਆਂ ਦਾ ਬਹੁਤ ਹੀ ਤਹਿ ਦਿਲੋਂ ਧੰਨਵਾਦੀ ਹਾਂ ਕਿ ਜਿਨ੍ਹਾਂ ਨੇ ਬਹੁਤ ਹੀ ਛੋਟੇ ਨੋਟਿਸ ਸਾਨੂੰ 7 ਤੋਂ 10 ਦਿਨ ਦਾ ਟਾਈਮ ਸੀਗਾ ਇਸ ਪ੍ਰੋਗਰਾਮ ਨੂੰ ਕਰਵਾਉਣ ਦਾ। ਤੁਹਾਡਾ ਸਾਰਿਆਂ ਦਾ ਸਾਥ ਸਾਡੀ ਇੱਕ ਬਹੁਤ ਹੀ ਅੱਛੀ ਸ਼ੁਰੂਆਤ ਹੈ। ਜੀ ਆਇਆਂ ਨੂੰ ਐਂਡ ਦਿਸ ਇਜ਼ ਦ ਨਿਊ ਬਿਗਨਿੰਗ। ਵਾਹਿਗੁਰੂ ਜੀ ਕਾ ਖਾਲਸਾ, ਵਾਹਿਗੁਰੂ ਜੀ ਕੀ ਫਤਿਹ।
Again, a blunder that I'm doing, coming between you and your drinks. But if you want to send your message to the 130 crore Indians who are back in India, please record your message. We're trying to record a bite from each one of you, and we'll try that it reaches your entire brother and sister community back in India. And we would even try our level best for the highest office in the country to have a look at your messages. So thank you so very much for coming. And as they said, it's just a beginning. And on behalf of the Chancellor, Mr. Satnam Singh Sandhu, and me, I would request each one of you to please come and visit Chandigarh and Chandigarh University. We look forward to you being a part of the journey, a magic called India. Thank you so much.
ऐसी बात नहीं बनेगी, हम सारे इधर आ जाएं। मोदी है तो मुमकिन है, हम इकट्ठे बोलेंगे। आ जाइए प्लीज, आइए इधर आइए सारे, आइए हम सारे इकट्ठे हो जाएं। और कैमरे वाले भाई थोड़ा पीछे हो जाए, चाहे सारा कवर कर लेना। आइए आइए प्लीज, मोदी है तो मुमकिन है, आइए प्लीज। हाँ आइए आइए प्लीज, आइए 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 ज्वाइन करिए, आइए। कराओगे तुम कराओगे मोदी तो मुमकिन चलते होते, कराओ कराओ, आओ आओ प्लीज प्लीज प्लीज, आइए आइए। पूरे जोश के साथ मेरी रिक्वेस्ट है, कोई फॉर्मेलिटी नहीं, सूट बूट पहने चल जाए काम। मोदी है तो मुमकिन, मोदी है तो, मोदी है तो, भारत माता की, भारत माता की, मोदी है तो। थैंक यू सो मच। जय।
Thank you. Food has been served and the catering people have said that you can start from both sides. So food is served from both sides, so there can be a line on the other side as well. Thank you. Good night and drive safely. And
आसमान को पाना है, आसमान से आगे जाना आएंगे।